You think African American church suppers were just fried chicken and potato salad? Think again. Fellowship halls across the South served dishes born from faith, resourcefulness, and generations of culinary wisdom that most modern kitchens have never seen. Here are 30 forgotten African American church suppers no one makes anymore. Smothered oxtails with rice announced itself the moment you stepped into the fellowship hall, its rich aroma filling every corner with promise. Church mothers braised these bony cuts for hours in cast iron Dutch ovens, transforming what butchers discarded into something magnificent. The oxtails were seared until browned, then slow cooked with onions, garlic, and thick tomato-based gravy seasoned with bay leaves and thyme until meat surrendered from bone. Marrow melted into the sauce, creating unmatched richness. Served over white rice that soaked up that velvety gravy, this dish fed dozens at church anniversaries and pastoral appreciation dinners. It represented elevating humble ingredients into celebrations, proving patience and skill could transform the forgotten into the unforgettable. Neck bones and butter beans filled fellowship halls with comfort only slow-cooked food could provide. Church mothers simmered smoked pork neck bones for hours until meat became tender enough to fall apart at the touch of a fork. Butter beans absorbed the smoky, salty essence of pork as they cooked down into creamy softness. The broth turned silky, seasoned simply with salt, pepper, and onion. This dish appeared at Wednesday night suppers and special fellowship gatherings when something hearty was needed. It stretched inexpensive cuts into meals, satisfying both body and spirit, providing complete protein and warmth. Though rarely seen on modern tables, neck bones and butter beans proved that church kitchens could transform scarcity into abundance through faith and patience. Chicken and cornmeal dumplings stretched one bird to feed an entire congregation when times were lean but faith remained strong. Church mothers simmered a whole chicken until meat fell from bones, creating rich golden broth fragrant with celery, onion, and bay leaf. Cornmeal dumplings were mixed by hand, combining cornmeal with flour, baking powder, and lard, then dropped by spoonfuls into bubbling broth. As they cooked, dumplings swelled and absorbed chicken essence, becoming soft pillows floating in savory liquid. The dish was ladled into bowls at homecomings, repasts, and revival week suppers. This represented resourcefulness and community, showing how one chicken could become a feast through skilled hands and generous spirits willing to share whatever they had. Pig feet and sauerkraut brought together African American cooking traditions with influences from German immigrants throughout the South. Church mothers cleaned and split pig feet, then simmered them slowly until collagen broke down into gelatinous, silky texture. Sauerkraut was added during final hours, its tangy sharpness cutting through the richness of pork and creating unexpected balance. The finished dish was tender, slightly sour, deeply satisfying, served with cornbread to soak up flavorful liquid. It appeared at church suppers during winter months when heartier fare sustained the congregation through cold evenings. Though some modern palates might hesitate, those who grew up with pig feet and sauerkraut remember it fondly as a dish that filled bellies and connected communities across cultural lines. Chitlin loaf took the tradition of chitlins and transformed them into something convenient for church fellowship tables. After chitlins were thoroughly cleaned and boiled tender, they were chopped fine and mixed with cornmeal, eggs, onions, and seasoning to form a loaf. Baked until firm and sliced thick, it could be served at room temperature, perfect for potluck, tables where dishes needed to hold up. Church mothers who made chitlin loaf were respected for their patience, as preparing chitlins required hours of careful work. The dish appeared at watch night services when traditional foods held deep significance. For many, it represented preserving ancestral foodways and honoring traditions even when shortcuts tempted. Chitlin loaf was heritage shaped into slices, served with pride where memory and faith gathered together. Smothered cabbage with ham hocks turned simple ingredients into something the entire congregation looked forward to all week. Church mothers simmered ham hocks until meat became tender and broth turned rich with smoky flavor. Cabbage was added in wedges, cooking down slowly until it absorbed pork essence while maintaining slight bite. Seasoned with black pepper, sugar to balance bitterness, and sometimes red pepper flakes, the dish was humble yet satisfying. Served alongside cornbread at Wednesday night. Suppers, smothered cabbage, provided nutrition and comfort while stretching modest ingredients. The dish represented generations of knowledge about coaxing maximum flavor from minimal resources. Though cabbage remains common, this slow-cooked preparation has largely disappeared, replaced by quicker methods. Salmon croquettes were a Friday staple in African American church kitchens, where canned salmon transformed into golden, crispy patties, feeding the faithful during Lenten seasons. Church mothers mixed salmon with sautéed onions, eggs, cracker crumbs, and seasonings, shaping mixture into oval patties before frying until exterior turned crackling brown. The inside remained moist with salmon's richness enhanced by onion. These croquettes appeared at fish fry fundraisers and Friday night suppers when meat was avoided. Canned salmon was economical yet nutritious, providing protein without requiring fresh fish many communities could not access. Salmon croquettes represented practicality and tradition, their golden crust beloved across generations until convenience foods replaced handmade versions. Red rice carried gula geechee tradition directly into African American church fellowship halls throughout the coastal South. Church mothers prepared it by cooking long grain rice with tomatoes, bacon drippings, onions, and spices until each grain turned that distinctive reddish hue. Tomatoes broke down during cooking, infusing rice with tangy sweetness, while bacon fat added richness. Some versions included smoked sausage, making the dish heartier for special occasions. Red rice appeared at church homecomings and reunions where large crowds needed feeding. It was cousin to West African jollof rice, linking church tables to ancestral homelands across the Atlantic. Though still prepared in some low-country churches, red rice has faded from fellowship halls further inland, leaving only memories of those who tasted history. Time equals 1 second greater than stewed chicken with tomatoes and okra combined African American and African culinary traditions into something that fed entire congregations. Church mothers browned chicken pieces in heavy pots, then added fresh tomatoes, sliced okra, onions, and seasonings before letting everything simmer until flavors melded. Okra released natural thickening properties, creating silky sauce clinging to each chicken piece, while tomatoes added brightness. This dish was common in the Deep South, where okra grew abundantly in backyard gardens. It appeared at Wednesday night suppers and homecoming celebrations when feeding large crowds required stretching resources. Served over rice, it provided a complete meal without expensive ingredients. Stewed chicken with tomatoes and okra represented practical wisdom of church kitchens. Pig ear sandwiches appeared at African American church barbecues and outdoor gatherings, turning a cut most people discarded into something unexpectedly delicious. The ears were cleaned thoroughly, simmered until tender, then sliced thin and either pickled or grilled until crispy at edges. Piled onto soft white bread with hot sauce, mustard, or vinegar slaw, the sandwiches offered chewy yet tender texture, with mild pork flavor absorbing whatever seasonings were applied. Church cooks who prepared pig ears honored no-waste traditions, sustaining African American communities through generations. The sandwiches appeared at summer revivals and picnics. For those who grew up eating them, pig ear sandwiches carried memories of hot summer days and crowded church grounds, a reminder that church cooking found value in what others overlooked. Hoppin' John carried African spiritual symbolism and Southern practicality into church fellowship halls, especially on New Year's Day when the dish promised luck and prosperity. Church mothers combined black-eyed peas with rice, onions, and smoked pork, simmering everything until flavors melded into something greater than individual parts. The peas symbolized coins, and when served alongside collard greens representing paper money, the meal became both sustenance and blessing. It appeared at watch night services and New Year's gatherings where congregations celebrated together. The dish stretched to feed dozens, perfect for church suppers where budgets were tight but hospitality generous. Hoppin' John represented the blending of African foodways with Southern ingredients, a tradition that survived the Middle Passage. Fried corn with bacon was a late summer dish that appeared on church fellowship tables when gardens overflowed with sweet corn still warm from the field. Church mothers cut fresh kernels from the cob, scraping the milky liquid that would thicken the dish naturally. Bacon was fried crisp in cast iron, then crumbled while corn cooked in rendered fat with onions until tender and caramelized. Seasoned simply with salt, pepper, and sometimes sugar, the dish let corn's natural sweetness shine while bacon added smokiness. It appeared at summer revivals and homecoming celebrations when fresh produce was abundant. Fried corn represented the connection between church communities and the land, a reminder that the best food came from nearby gardens. The dish has faded as fewer families grow their own corn. Beef tripe stew required patience, skill, and willingness to transform what others discarded into something nourishing. Church mothers cleaned the honeycomb textured stomach lining thoroughly, then simmered it for hours until tender enough to cut with a fork. Tomatoes, onions, potatoes, and peppers were added to create hearty stew seasoned with garlic, bay leaves, and black pepper. The tripe absorbed broth flavors while contributing its own subtle richness. It appeared at church suppers where economy mattered and no part of the animal was wasted. For families who grew up eating tripe, the dish carried memories of grandmothers who could make anything taste good through patience. Though largely disappeared from modern tables, beef tripe stew represented the African American tradition of honoring every ingredient. Crackling cornbread elevated ordinary cornbread by folding crispy bits of rendered pork skin directly into the batter. Church mothers made cracklings by slowly rendering fatback or pork skin until pieces turned golden and crunchy. These were stirred into cornmeal batter along with buttermilk, eggs, and sugar before being poured into a smoking hot cast iron skillet. The cornbread baked until golden with a crispy bottom crust. The cracklings distributed throughout, adding pockets of salty, porky crunch. It appeared at church suppers alongside beans, greens, and stews served in wedges that disappeared quickly. Crackling cornbread represented the no-waste philosophy of African American kitchens. The dish has faded as fewer families render their own lard, leaving only memories of cornbread that was never ordinary. Smothered turkey wings became a church supper staple when families sought something affordable but equally satisfying for feeding crowds. Church mothers seasoned the meaty wings with salt, pepper, garlic powder, and paprika before browning them until skin turned crispy. Onions softened in pan drippings before wings were returned and covered with rich gravy made from pan juices thickened with flour. Everything simmered until meat became tender enough to fall from bone while gravy turned silky. Served over rice or with cornbread, smothered turkey wings fed dozens at pastoral anniversaries and homecomings. The dish stretched modest budgets while still feeling celebratory. Though turkey wings remain available, the slow smothered preparation has given way to quicker methods that cannot match the depth church mothers achieved. Sweet potato souffle brought elegance to church fellowship tables, transforming humble tubers into something resembling dessert. Church mothers baked sweet potatoes until soft, then mashed them with butter, brown sugar, eggs, vanilla, and warm spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. The mixture was spread into baking dishes and topped with crunchy layer of pecans, brown sugar, and butter that caramelized during baking. The finished souffle emerged golden and fragrant, fluffy interior giving way to addictive, crunchy topping. It appeared at Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter gatherings where members brought their finest dishes. Sweet potato souffle straddled the line between side dish and dessert. The dish represented elevating affordable ingredients into something memorable, though it faded as convenience foods replaced scratch preparations. Brunswick stew could feed an entire congregation from a single large pot, simmering over outdoor fires at church barbecues and homecomings. Church mothers combined whatever proteins were available, often chicken and pork with tomatoes, corn, lima beans, and potatoes. Everything cooked together for hours until meats shredded and vegetables broke down into thick, hearty stew, satisfying the hungriest members. The dish originated in the South, with Virginia and Georgia both claiming creation, but African American cooks made it their own through generations. Brunswick stew appeared at cemetery cleanings, outdoor revivals, and all-day singings where large crowds needed feeding. The long cooking time meant it could simmer unattended while services continued. It represented community and abundance even when individual ingredients were humble. Liver mush appeared on fellowship tables in the Carolinas and parts of Virginia, combining liver with cornmeal into a loaf that could be sliced and fried. Church mothers simmered pork liver until tender, then ground or mashed it before mixing with cornmeal, broth, and seasonings. The mixture was packed into loaf pans and chilled until firm enough to slice. For serving, slices were fried in hot fat until crispy outside while remaining soft inside. The flavor was mild and earthy, cornmeal mellowing the liver's intensity. Liver mush appeared at breakfast fellowships and Wednesday night suppers, where economical dishes were appreciated. It represented regional variations in African American church cooking, recipes that traveled only as far as the congregations who loved them. The dish has faded as taste changed. Country fried steak with onion gravy made tough, cheap cuts of beef taste like Sunday luxury. Church mothers pounded cube steaks thin, dredged them in seasoned flour, then fried in hot oil until golden crust formed. Steaks were set aside while sliced onions softened in pan drippings. Then flour was stirred in to create roux before milk was added to make creamy gravy. The steaks returned to the pan, smothered in onion-studded gravy, and simmered until everything melded. Served over rice or mashed potatoes, this dish fed crowds at church suppers where comfort food was expected. It stretched modest beef budgets while delivering satisfaction, belying humble origins. Country fried steak represented transforming inexpensive ingredients through technique into something the congregation anticipated all week. Fried okra made even skeptics reach for seconds, transforming the polarizing vegetable into irresistible crispy bites. Church mothers sliced fresh okra into rounds, tossed them with buttermilk, then dredged in seasoned cornmeal before frying in hot oil until golden. The coating turned crunchy, while okra inside became tender without sliminess. Seasoned simply with salt and sometimes cayenne, fried okra appeared at fish fries, barbecues, and summer fellowship gatherings when gardens produced abundantly. It represented African roots of Southern cooking as okra traveled from Africa through the slave trade. Fried okra was finger food meant for sharing, piled high on platters that empty quickly. The dish has faded from many tables as frozen and pre-breaded versions replace the handmade preparation church mothers perfected over generations. Pepper jelly glazed ham brought sweet heat to church fellowship tables during Easter and Christmas when something special was required. Church mothers scored cured hams in diamond patterns, then brushed them with homemade pepper jelly, combining sweet preserves with fiery peppers. As the ham baked, the glaze caramelized into a sticky, spicy sweet coating that crackled with each slice. The pepper jelly was often made from garden peppers, preserved during summer, connecting holiday meals to harvest past. This ham appeared at pastoral installations and major holiday gatherings where presentation mattered as much as flavor. It represented elevating special occasions through food showing effort and care. Though pepper jelly remains available, the tradition of glazing hams this way has largely faded from fellowship halls. Stewed tomatoes and okra was a simple side dish appearing on church fellowship tables throughout summer when both vegetables ripened abundantly in backyard gardens. Church mothers combined fresh tomatoes with sliced okra, simmering them with onions, salt, pepper, and sometimes sugar until flavors melded into something comforting. The okra's natural thickening gave the dish body, while tomatoes provided brightness. Served alongside cornbread, this dish stretched garden abundance to feed the congregation without expensive ingredients. It appeared at Wednesday night suppers, outdoor picnics, and homecomings where vegetable dishes rounded out the table. Stewed tomatoes and okra represented the connection between church communities and the gardens sustaining them, a dish that tasted like summer itself. Hog maw tested the commitment of those claiming to honor no-waste cooking traditions in African American communities. The pig's stomach was cleaned meticulously, then stuffed with a mixture of sausage, potatoes, cabbage, and seasonings before being sewn shut and slow roasted until everything inside became tender. The stomach itself turned into a crispy, chewy casing some considered the best part. This dish appeared at church suppers during winter months and New Year's celebrations, where it joined traditional foods promising prosperity. Church mothers who prepared hog maw were respected for their skill and patience. Though rarely seen on modern fellowship tables, hog maw represented the determination to find value in every part of the animal that sustained the community. Blackberry cobbler appeared on church fellowship tables during summer when wild berries ripened along fences and woodland edges throughout the South. Church mothers sent children out with buckets to gather dark, juicy berries, returning with stained fingers as proof of labor. The berries were sweetened and poured into baking dishes, then topped with buttery biscuit dough that puffed and browned during baking. The cobbler emerged, bubbling with purple juice around golden crust, served warm with cold cream. It appeared at revivals, homecomings, and summer gatherings where dessert tables groaned with homemade sweets. Blackberry cobbler represented the connection between church communities and the land, a dish requiring effort but costing almost nothing. The tradition has faded as fewer families forage wild berries. Pinto beans with chow chow paired slow-cooked legumes with tangy pickled relish on church fellowship tables. Church mothers simmered dried pinto beans for hours with ham hocks until the beans turned creamy and broth thickened into potlikker. Chow chow, a relish of pickled cabbage, peppers, and green tomatoes, was spooned over each, serving to cut through richness with bright acidity. The combination provided complete protein when served with cornbread, feeding the congregation affordably while delivering satisfaction. It appeared at Wednesday night suppers and simple fellowship gatherings where economy mattered. Pinto beans with chow chow represented practical wisdom of African American church cooking, pairing preserved vegetables with pantry staples to create meals nourishing both body and spirit. Fried chicken gizzards were the snack appearing at church fish fries and fellowship gatherings, offering crispy, chewy bites that stretched budgets while delivering deep chicken flavor. Church mothers cleaned the muscular organs, then simmered them until tender before dredging in seasoned flour and frying until golden brown. The exterior turned crackling crisp while the inside remained dense and satisfying. Served in paper-lined baskets with hot sauce, gizzards were finger food meant for eating while standing during fellowship. They appeared at outdoor gatherings and after church socials where informal food was appropriate. Fried gizzards represented the no-waste philosophy of African American cooking. The dish has faded as fewer cooks take time to properly prepare these humble but delicious morsels. Persimmon pudding was an autumn dessert appearing on church fellowship tables when wild persimmons ripened on trees throughout the South. Church mothers gathered the soft, sweet fruit after first frost sweetened it naturally, then pulped the flesh and mixed it with flour, sugar, eggs, and warm spices to create dense, moist pudding. Baked until set with slightly crisp top, the pudding carried flavor unlike anything else, sweet and almost date-like with hints of spice. It appeared at Thanksgiving gatherings and fall homecomings when seasonal desserts celebrated the harvest. Persimmon pudding represented the deep knowledge African American cooks held about wild foods and seasonal rhythms. The dish has nearly disappeared as fewer people recognize wild persimmons or take time to gather them. Ox tongue with gravy demonstrated the commitment of African American church cooks to honoring every part of the animal. The large muscular tongue required hours of simmering before tough outer skin could be peeled away, revealing tender meat underneath. Church mothers sliced the cooked tongue and served it in rich gravy made from cooking liquid, thickened with flour and seasoned with onions and black pepper. The meat was surprisingly delicate, with texture resembling fine roast beef. It appeared at church suppers where economy mattered and cooks preparing tongue were respected. Ox tongue has largely disappeared from fellowship tables as organ meats fell from favor, but it once represented the principle that careful preparation could transform any ingredient into something welcomed. Cornmeal mush with sorghum sustained African American communities through lean times, appearing at church fellowship, breakfast, and modest suppers. Church mothers stirred cornmeal into boiling water or milk, cooking slowly until it thickened into smooth porridge. Served hot with sorghum syrup, drizzled generously over the top, the mush provided filling sustenance, costing almost nothing to prepare. The sorghum added sweetness and depth, its dark, earthy flavor complementing the corn. This dish appeared at early morning prayer breakfasts and Wednesday night suppers when budgets were stretched thin. Cornmeal mush represented the foundation of survival cooking, a dish keeping hunger at bay when nothing else was available. Though rarely seen today, it once proved that simple ingredients prepared with care could bring comfort to the faithful. Bread pudding with bourbon sauce transformed stale bread into celebratory dessert on church fellowship tables, demonstrating the no-waste philosophy defining African American cooking. Church mothers tore day-old bread into pieces and soaked them in sweetened custard made from eggs, milk, sugar, and vanilla. Raisins or pecans were folded in before baking until golden and slightly crusty on top. The bourbon sauce, made with butter, sugar, and whiskey, cooked until thick, was poured warm over each serving. This dessert appeared at special occasions where something impressive was needed, representing transformation of humble leftovers into celebration.
Chicken and dumplings were a comfort for the congregation, a stew that could stretch to feed however many people showed up. The broth simmered slow, thick with flour and flavor, while soft dumplings puffed up on top like little clouds. Every spoonful was a reminder that simplicity could still taste divine. It was always served from a big enamel pot, the kind that never stayed empty long. The chicken was tender, the dumplings tenderer, and the warmth endless. Grandmothers stood near the stove, ladling out bowls with quiet smiles, saying, "There's more in the back." It was food that didn't run out, not when love was cooking it. The broth was rich with time and care, deepened by whatever herbs grew in the yard or window box. The dumplings soaked up everything, fluffy yet hearty, made to satisfy both hunger and heartache. You could taste the faith in every bite, the belief that food, like kindness, multiplies when shared. On cold days, this dish healed. On good days, it celebrated. Either way, it fed more than just the body. It fed the soul. Lemon turkey legs turned ordinary afternoons into feasts that stretched across lawns and porches. Large turkey legs were rubbed with salt, black pepper, and a hint of paprika before spending hours in a slow smoker where hickory or oak wood filled the air with a deep, savory perfume. The meat cooked until it nearly fell from the bone, yet held enough bite to satisfy anyone who grabbed it by the handle and tore off a juicy piece. This portable meal was ideal for church picnics, outdoor fairs, or family reunions where plates were optional and conversation never paused. Children marveled at the size of each leg while adults admired the rich mahogany skin that crackled under gentle pressure. No one left hungry when a basket of smoked turkey legs appeared, and leftovers rarely survived the walk home. Their flavor spoke of patience, resourcefulness, and the simple art of turning inexpensive cuts into something grand, proving that the best meals often needed nothing more than smoke, time, and a crowd ready to gather and share the moment together in the open air. Buttermilk cornbread from scratch emerged from church ovens in cast-iron skillets seasoned through decades, creating golden rounds with crispy bottoms and tender crumbs that soaked up Potlikker perfectly. Stone-ground cornmeal was mixed with buttermilk, eggs, flour, baking powder, and salt before being poured into smoking hot skillets greased with bacon drippings that created the signature crust. The result tasted nothing like store-bought varieties, with slight tang from buttermilk and richness from drippings. Churchwomen competed quietly over whose cornbread achieved perfect texture, not too dry and not too cake-like, but substantial enough to fill stomachs and complement every dish. Cornmeal was among the cheapest staples available, with 5-pound bags costing less than $1. The bread appeared at every gathering, from Wednesday fellowship to all-day singing, where stacks disappeared as quickly as they were baked. Children reached for corner pieces with extra crust, while adults appreciated how the bread stretched meals. Macaroni and cheese was the crown jewel of every church supper, golden and bubbling beneath its crust. The noodles were cooked just enough, layered with sharp cheddar and evaporated milk in heavy pans that once belonged to someone's mother. No one used measurements, just instinct passed down through taste and touch. When that oven door opened, the smell alone made people drift toward the kitchen. The cheese melted into a silky river, clinging to each noodle until it became more than a side dish. It was family history disguised as comfort food. Kids hovered close with their plates, hoping to get the corner pieces where the cheese crisped just right. Grandmothers guarded their recipes but always shared a serving, smiling at the next generation and saying, "Now this is how it's supposed to taste." On potluck Sundays, the pan came back scraped clean, proof that love and patience never wasted. It was food that reminded people of who they were and why the best things in life take a little time to bake. Children ate them without complaint because Potlikker's richness made beans taste special, while adults appreciated both nutrition and continuity with tradition. Peach chicken wings with hot sauce were less expensive than whole chickens or breasts, making them practical for feeding church crowds while providing crispy, savory chicken everyone loved. Chicken wings were heavily seasoned with salt, pepper, garlic powder, and paprika before being dredged in seasoned flour and dropped into hot oil that turned skin golden and crunchy. The wings were fried until cooked through and crispy, then tossed with hot sauce while warm so the spicy, vinegary sauce coated every surface. The result was addictive, with crunchy coating giving way to tender meat and tangy heat that made people reach for more. Church fish fries often included chicken wings alongside fish, providing options for those who preferred poultry. Wings cost significantly less per pound than other chicken parts and cooked quickly, making them economical and practical. Hot sauce added minimal expense but transformed plain fried wings into something with personality. Children who couldn't handle heat ate wings without sauce. String beans with fatback simmered for hours in church kitchens, transforming fresh green beans into tender vegetables seasoned with smoky pork. Fresh string beans were snapped by hand, with churchwomen sitting in circles breaking off ends while they talked and laughed together. The beans were added to large pots with chunks of fatback, water, salt, pepper, and sometimes sugar to balance the salt, then cooked slowly until the beans turned soft and fatback rendered into the cooking liquid. The result was beans swimming in rich pot liquor that could be sopped up with cornbread, with fatback providing essential flavor and calories. Fatback cost almost nothing at butcher shops and kept well when salted, making it perfect for seasoning vegetables for church crowds. The beans appeared at every summer supper when gardens produced abundance, with families bringing bushels they had grown to be prepared communally. Children grew up loving these beans, understanding that smoky richness came from careful preparation and patience. Fried whiting fish was the heartbeat of summer services and Sunday fundraisers, popping and hissing in cast-iron skillets behind the church. The fish was dredged in seasoned cornmeal, fried until golden and crisp, the edges curling slightly as they hit the hot oil. The sound alone could bring a crowd. Children ran back and forth with paper plates while elders fanned themselves with church programs, laughing and waiting for the next batch. You could taste the salt of the sea, the crunch of tradition, the work of hands that knew how to stretch a meal. Fried whiting was affordable, filling, and familiar, something every soul food cook could trust to come out right. Sometimes it was served with white bread and mustard, sometimes with coleslaw and hush puppies, but always with pride. It was food that traveled well, from kitchen to fellowship hall to picnic table, and it never lost its magic. Every piece was a little miracle of patience and grease, the taste of good company and good faith. Bones and rice appeared at black church Christmas dinners as proof that the most flavorful cuts were often the ones others overlooked. Pork neck bones were cheap and considered undesirable by many, but church mothers understood that bones meant marrow, and marrow meant richness. The neck bones were first browned in a heavy pot, then simmered for hours with onions, garlic, and seasoning until the meat fell from the bones and the broth turned silky from rendered collagen. Rice was cooked in that same broth, absorbing every drop of the smoky, porky flavor until each grain glistened with richness. The dish was served in deep bowls, the tender meat piled over rice with plenty of pot liquor for sopping with cornbread. Children learned to navigate around bones, sucking out every bit of marrow and meat their elders had taught them to value. Neck bones and rice represented the ingenuity of black cooks who turned what others discarded into dishes that satisfied both body and soul during the leanest times. Black-eyed peas with ham hocks simmered in church kitchens year-round but held special significance on New Year's Day, when congregations gathered to eat them for luck and prosperity. Dried peas were soaked overnight, then cooked slowly with a single ham hock that released smoky, salty flavor, while onions and garlic added depth. The result was creamy beans in thick pot liquor served as soup or over rice, with ham hocks meat pulled from bone. Churchwomen understood a little meat went far when combined with beans, providing protein without the expense of steaks beyond most budgets. Black-eyed peas cost almost nothing, with dried bags available for pennies, perfect for feeding large crowds after Sunday service. The dish carried deep cultural significance, connecting congregations to Southern agricultural traditions and New Year's customs promising good fortune. Children ate them without complaint because Potlikker's richness made beans taste special, while adults appreciated both nutrition and continuity with tradition. Collard greens with ham hocks were the backbone of every potluck table, steaming and savory, filling the room with their deep, earthy scent. The greens were washed over and over in cool water, not just to clean them, but to honor the work that went into growing them. The ham hocks simmered for hours until the meat softened, sending flavor through every leaf. The pot itself would tremble gently on the stove as if humming along with the gospel songs on the radio. Grandmothers knew the timing by feel, not clocks, tasting the broth and nodding when it was ready. A good pot of greens could stretch a meal, feed a family, and feed a crowd all the same. When carried into the church basement, the steam fogged the lids of the serving trays, and everyone nearby could smell the salt, the smoke, and the love. These greens told stories about sharecropping days, about Sunday rest after long weeks, about making something nourishing from whatever you had. Nothing on that table ever felt more alive. Even if money was tight, you could always count on greens to show up, hearty and humble, served with hot sauce and pride. Baked cobbler with pie crust strips was the kind of dessert that reminded people what home felt like. You could smell it before you even made it through the church door, that mix of cinnamon, butter, and baked peaches rising through the air like a sweet hymn. Someone's grandmother had brought it from home, wrapped tight in foil and tucked safely in the trunk of her car, so it would still be warm when service ended. The peaches were always ripe, soft from syrup or from the summer heat, and they melted into the crust like gold under sunlight. The pie strips were laid carefully across the top, never in perfect lines but always with love, brushed with melted butter until they baked into crisp ribbons that cracked softly with every scoop. A bowl of peach cobbler was more than dessert. It was reward for long sermons, for tired weeks, for the kind of patience that came from faith and family. The sweetness clung to your tongue and made every bite feel earned. No matter how many tables were filled with cakes or puddings, this one was always gone first. The elders called it real dessert, and the children licked their spoons clean, knowing this was what happiness tasted like. Peach cobbler with hand-rolled crust arrived at church suppers in rectangular pans, golden pastry bubbling with fruit juices that caramelized at edges while centers stayed tender. Fresh peaches were sliced during summer when abundant and cheap, tossed with sugar, cinnamon, nutmeg, and lemon juice before being covered with pastry dough rolled thin. The cobbler baked slowly until crust turned golden and peach filling thickened into syrup pooling in corners, creating bites ranging from crispy edges to fruit-soaked centers. Churchwomen made these in home kitchens early Sunday morning, timing baking so dessert was slightly warm when served. Peaches in season cost little at roadside stands, with bruised fruit perfect since it would be cooked down anyway. The dish represented summer abundance and preserving seasonal fruit, with families often canning peaches for year-round cobblers. Children lined up eagerly, hoping for corner pieces with extra crust, while adults savored the combination that tasted like celebration. Smothered pork chops were Sunday strength on a plate. Thick cuts of pork cooked slow in onion gravy until every bite fell apart at the touch of a fork. The grandmothers who made them did not rush anything, because flavor took time and love took patience. They browned the chops in cast-iron skillets that had seen decades of dinners, letting the sizzle mark the start of the feast. Then came the onions, sliced thin, fried golden, and stirred with broth and flour until the whole kitchen smelled like home. Those pans were never washed too hard, because that seasoning was history. By the time the chops were done, the gravy had turned deep and glossy, clinging to rice, biscuits, or whatever was served beside it. Folks lined up early at the church table for this dish, knowing it would be gone before the choir even finished their song. It was not fancy food, it was memory food, the kind that reminded you who raised you and how much care could live inside one skillet. Even now, if you ever smell that rich gravy cooking, it feels like stepping back into a kitchen where laughter and faith never ran out. Gula red molasses spice cookies filled kitchens with the warm scent of cinnamon, ginger, and cloves long before guests knocked on the door. Dark molasses gave each cookie a deep sweetness and a chewy texture that stayed tender for days, making them ideal for storing in tins or carrying to church gatherings. Butter and brown sugar blended with the spices created a dough that chilled briefly before baking into perfectly cracked tops, dusted with a light coating of sugar. Each bite offered a comforting balance of sweet heat and earthy richness, the kind of flavor that paired perfectly with a glass of milk or a steaming cup of coffee. Children eagerly rolled the dough into small balls while parents handled the hot baking sheets, turning cookie making into a family ritual. Whether stacked on holiday plates or tucked into lunch pails, molasses spice cookies traveled well and satisfied even the strongest sweet craving. They became a year-round favorite for families who cherished recipes that felt both festive and familiar, proving that the simplest ingredients could create an aroma and taste that lingered lovingly in memory long after the last crumb disappeared from the jar.
Though bread pudding survives in restaurants, the church tradition of making it from truly stale bread has faded. Which forgotten church supper would you bring back to the fellowship table? Drop your memories in the comments, hit like, and subscribe for more forgotten flavors from kitchens that fed the faithful.